flowing so hard, John and Stephanie, that she may short out the board. She may short out the board today. I'm not sure.
I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
At this point, does it feel personal, Hannah?
It's felt personal for a while.
Welcome.
Maybe if you change your career path, and that way you could fall under the president's headings of who gets relief.
I was talking to an instructor, a nursing instructor at MACC. They're looking for new enrollees. Wait a minute. I guess that would be new debt.
I would not do well in nursing.
You wouldn't. You don't like blood?
Well, blood doesn't bother me, but needles freak me out. No.
Yeah. That smell of cauliflower neither. Well, welcome back into Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Great to be all together with you. And there are things happening today, and I'm sure we'll be unpacking the student loan thing. In fact, we'll be doing that a little bit later as we try to figure out what in the world Biden is up to now. A total of $167 billion.
I can't wait to take this up with the Attorney General.
We are, and Attorney General Andrew Bailey will be with us this morning at 8:35 to talk about that. A little rift he and the governor have over some lawsuits of defamation after the Kansas City Chiefs celebration parade a few months ago. Brenda Talent from Show Me, as we've been sort of going through our various experts and talking to them and going through our Rolodex, we'll be talking to Brenda about her take and maybe she'll give a letter grade and an effort grade. Remember, we got letter grades and effort grades. We'll see what she gives on each of those counts. You didn't do letter and effort grades. Do they have those when you're in school, Hannah?
I mean, obviously I know what a letter grade is. I guess I'm not sure what an effort.
Yeah, you used to have a 1, 2, or 3 for effort. Remember that, John?
Not in my era.
We have a bizarro grading system now that no one understands. It's like 1 to 4, but like 3 is not a B, but but it's not a B.
3 is
fine. Well, and 4 is like extra A+. No one knows.
I guess in some of my classes we would get like satisfactory or unsatisfactory.
Fail or pass.
Pretty much.
I remember there for a while where they went, instead of A, B, C, they went E, S, and some other stuff for a number of years.
LMNOP.
This is why when my kid told me yesterday, he said, "You know how many times I've watched Sandlot in the last 2 weeks?" And I said, "How many?" He said, "I think 5. I said, 5 times in the same class? He said, "No, it's been different classes." And
watching what?
Sandlot. Because
what is Sandlot?
It's a movie. For the last,
You're killing me, Smalls.
What movie?
Oh, man.
Is this a new movie?
No.
Oh, no.
It's the end of school, and they really should be out already. So we have done field trips and field days, and apparently we've watched the same movie 5 times.
Sandlot.
The Sandlot is even before my time, really.
I don't
and
know
I know
Sandlot.
what it is.
Oh,
it's a
come
baseball
on.
movie.
Well, I assumed it's baseball, but was it like a big screen movie?
Yes.
You play baseball like a girl.
Is this the edited version? Because the Sandlot, I remember the kids had a lot of pretty coarse language in it.
I assume so, but who knows? I mean, who knows? Now, Randy, you were talking about Brenda Talent, and yesterday we kind of went through the Missouri Independent named winners and losers. And actually, I think we kind of agreed with a lot of their choices. But they named some of the winners as school choice advocates. So I wonder, we need to ask Brenda if she feels like a winner.
Yeah. Well, I know that Susan Pendergrass from the Show Me has worked tirelessly in advocating for that. And while it didn't quite move the needle as much as I had hoped, and it certainly moved it an awful lot in public school. They got their dose of goodness. We'll take what we can get. But I am now looking ahead. I'm looking forward to next session when we will clean out all of the political contention that I think drove a lot of the legislative contention. And, political aspirational contention. Candidates that were terming out and running.
I think that's a very rose-colored glasses.
Yeah,
Well, that's me. I'm a happy guy. I'm always a happy guy. What do you mean? Every morning I have the rose-colored glasses on, Hannah.
What Scott Fawn told us was this: it's not really about going forward, that all of these folks were really, and I want to use a Gen Z term, I'm not sure I can say it on the radio, but can I say behind hurt? I can say
butthurt?
You could say butthurt.
I can say butthurt.
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm nervous still. All right. So,
Stephanie, we established that you could say ball sack. I think you can say butt.
I didn't say that. But anyway,
the attorney has to check the statutes here.
He he said all of them were just butthurt over a leadership election that occurred like a whole long time ago. That drew the lines, and they've been cranky about it ever since. And so you don't think they're going to show up butthurt over whatever happens in the primary election? You got to be kidding me. It's just going to be more of the same.
A
I
cluster.
agree. I think you're right on the money.
Yeah, did you hear Hannah yesterday? You got to watch the Facebook page.
No, what happened, Hannah?
I had a zinger yesterday.
What happened?
You'll have to check
We'll
it
have
out
to
on the
review
Wake
it.
Up Mid-Missouri Facebook page.
Boy. Okay.
Because
An
once again,
explanation doesn't do it justice.
once again, it didn't get the appreciation I feel it deserved.
It
but
was hilarious.
It's fine.
Did you have a spontaneous Hannah moment again?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Well, that's good. That's good. Well, and the Trump trial, I don't know now. There's like a pause. There's a hiatus for 7 days. I don't understand that. I thought in all the trials I've watched, like the guy up there in South Carolina that murdered his son and his wife, and I mean, they finish the arguments and they lock him up, and the jury makes a decision. What the heck's going on?
I think we've agreed that there are different rules if your last name is Trump, and so this is just more of the same.
I don't understand this. So now they can go to their Memorial Day barbecues and they can, read the New York Slime, and they can go back and reinforce their biases against Donald Trump. I don't.
Well,
I don't
the
get this.
Trump team going into that said, with all these different states and their different trial laws and all, that they had a pretty high bar to have to chase after.
I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. The trial, why don't they just do the arguments? The judge tells them what the rules are, and they make a decision. Lock them up in a hotel till they make a decision.
Good question.
Am I right?
No, I think
they shouldn't be tainted by people around them and things they see on the tube.
Oh, I agree with that. And originally, they were going to hear the closing arguments this week. So I don't understand why they pushed it back a week. Is it to keep Trump off the campaign trail for another week? I mean, there's all sorts of conspiracy theories. I do think you don't want to rush the jury. So if I had to make a legitimate argument for why we push it back, you don't want them to feel the pressure of. And so a lot of times juries feel the pressure at Friday at 5, they're deliberating and they're like, oh, we want to get out of here. So let's just make a quick decision. And so if you were going to think about it doing closing arguments Tuesday, then you maybe, you got to get the jury. And the other thing, they got to get the jury instructions done. I don't think those are necessarily done yet. And those are pretty particular. So maybe you get the jury instructions done Wednesday, you start deliberations Thursday, and then, of course, Friday's a holiday.
Hey, hang on.
I know if they locked me in a hotel room and took away my phone and any access to the internet,
Hannah'd be like, give me the paper, check yes or no, I'm ready.
I'd be pushing pretty hard for a decision on the jury.
Wait. This merchant of menace, Martian of menace, and then it's not the merchant of Venice, but the Martian of menace. This was the 20th day of trial yesterday. That's business days, trial
we've done
days.
5 weeks.
There's been other days. Can he not have been formulating his orders, been thinking about what he's going to say, and then within, put him in a room for a few hours, actually do some work, judge, and then give him their orders, and then let them go to work. These people need to go to work. They've been out of work for 5 weeks. I mean, they got bills to pay.
And he blamed Trump and say, well, we had to let Trump off on Friday for Barron's graduation, and there's been all these other pre-trial issues, and we've had this and that. We've had to deal with the gag order. That's all Trump's fault. So if you're on the left, I mean, that's what he's going to say, is that it's that Trump's causing some of the delay as well.
I wonder what their per diem is.
In Missouri, it's like dollars.
Yeah, it's nothing.
I guess I had an overinflated
Hannah's like, I'm
expectation.
ready for jury duty. Give me that $100. I think it's
I'm still bummed I didn't get called to be interviewed or whatever.
Now,
for the federal jury duty I had.
Now, this is why if you happen to be streaming us in New York or in California,
the state or the big city?
The city, I guess. I don't know. City. And you want to move to a jurisdiction where judges are real people, and every image of them doesn't look smug and arrogant. This Engeron guy, you know how smug and arrogant he was? I have not seen a picture of this Marchand jerk. He's a jerk. Guy's a jerk. I'm sorry. He's a jerk.
Wow, pulling out the J word at 6:18.
Well, when he tells this esteemed attorney, Robert Costello, don't look at me, you're staring me down. Excuse me, Is it not my First Amendment right to look at you? I'm sorry. These New York judges are arrogant, pompous asses.
Costello was.
Now I look at Judge Jacobs. Look at this guy. Nice. Judge
He's
Jacobs,
a
good guy.
dad.
Judge Jesus Osete. He was at the military appreciation the other day. We had a lunch. We were talking about normal guy. He smiles. He looks at you. My brother-in-law is a judge down in Jefferson County. Good guy. I mean, he does a pig roast when the family has a good guy. No smugness, no arrogance.
But I'd say you do have to command control of your courtroom, and people have to know that you're like the boss of the room. Otherwise, it could get really out of hand. Particularly,
don't look at me. You're staring me down. What a whim.
Particularly with
Come on.
With the personalities in the courtroom. And here it wasn't just the looking at me. Apparently, the judge made some ruling as to an objection, and I think the guy said some version of "geez."
Excuse me. Oh, I can't say a word. Oh my! I am so tired of authority figures lording over us. And now you got Joe Biden just with a stroke of a pen trying to buy votes. I am sick and tired of authority figures who already command respect by virtue of their position overdoing it.
Costello was out of line responding to the objections. He would have been instructed not to do that, and I think it happened multiple times. And I would just say you have to, in that situation, you have to have control over the courtroom, or it could devolve into something like what we saw. I mean, the person that I felt the worst for when we had this whole like butch body eyelash thing in Congress the other day was the chair. And you saw people were rushing to his aid, and he was just like, order, order. And like everyone was screaming. People were trying to tell him how to get a hold of it. And he was just like completely he had absolutely
a lot of the comments were going right by him too.
And he had absolutely lost control. And so as a judge, I mean, it's your job to keep control of that room. And you can see from like that Congress situation what happens when you don't have control.
I'm not backing down.
Okay.
I'm not backing down. You know why?
I don't expect
what happened to
You know
the
why I'm not backing
rose-colored
down?
glasses
You know-
from 5
you know
minutes
why I'm
ago?
not
We woke
backing
up with
down.
our poopy pants on
You know,
today.
this is not poopy pants. This is why everyday Americans are voting for Donald Trump.
we had our eyes on a couple of really important races. Fani Willis and Judge Scott McAfee in Georgia both survived a primary last night. People voted for Fani Willis. We were also watching Oregon. This one's really interesting. Right now, District Attorney Mike Schmidt, who basically had announced in Oregon that he wasn't really going to prosecute anything, super liberal, Soros-funded prosecutor, actually is losing right now to Nathan Vasquez. So that's good news. I don't think they've finished counting yet, but it is expected that Nathan Vasquez wins there. Also in Oregon, Maxine Dexter came out on top in Oregon's 3rd congressional district, and that is important in that she there was, I think, a 3-way or just a crowded primary, but as part of that primary, it included Pramila Jayapal's sister. And so the squad was hoping to add someone else to the squad, and she went down. And so as we watch our own squad race here with Cori Bush and her challenger, Wesley Bell, I think that's good news for us. Yesterday, the White House had to issue, I think it's up to 10, it might be 11 this morning.
Oh, really?
Corrections,
I had heard 9. It's up to 11 now. Wow.
corrections for a single Biden speech. They're still reviewing the transcript. I don't even know how long this guy spoke, but 10 corrections is a lot. Beyond just the crazy gaffes that we've played some of already, apparently, they're actually saying he did not say erectionist. He said erectionist, IRR.
That doesn't make it any better.
Right.
That's what they said he said instead of insurrectionist. But he also, I think he misquoted Trump. He made a bunch of grammatical errors. He also misquoted a statistic about the Affordable Care Act. He is just, it's not great.
He called the NAACP the NAAC.
He did.
Right?
He did. So there was a lot. He said, I think, award instead of organization. He's just got all sorts of problems. So we're keeping our eye on that and the tally as it continues to go up. Also, as we've discussed, Biden announced additional student loan relief.
Woohoo!
$7.7 billion for 160,000 borrowers. Hannah really wished it was 160,001 because
Brian's not here, but I would say that's billion with a B.
Oh, yeah.
Let me check my email real quick, see if I have any notices.
And John, you bring up a good point because the total relief price tag now comes to 167 billion with the B.
Billion.
So that we're paying for people like Hannah. Thank you very much, Joe Biden. And if you recall, he tried to do this and it went to the courts. So I know we're talking to Andrew Bailey later, but we got to talk about, is there anything we can do about all of this other student loan relief? Because it's just getting ridiculous. Also, we are expecting a vote on the border bill in the Senate. That is going to break down likely along party lines, with Republicans actually voting against it. And then Ted Cruz introduced some legislation on IVF.
Yeah, he and Katie Britt. Mm-hmm. I say Harrison Butker, Katie Britt on the family party ticket. of Menace, the Merchant of Venice. No, the Merchant of Menace, Judge Marchand. Hey, Mike Murphy, our erstwhile reporter
Good
today,
morning.
joins us, and he's, of course, publisher of Como Buzz and host of Columbia Buzz here on 93.9 The Eagle on Sunday mornings. Mike, a story that's close to my heart, and I'll tell you why after you relate the story, out of Sturgeon that has created quite a furor on the social media platforms.
Well, and John even is reporting on it, too. It has bridged multiple towns.
Is it making the news in Jefferson City, too?
It
Oh,
is.
yeah. Dogs getting gunned down by law enforcement. Yeah, that kind of makes the news.
It's called getting Christy gnomed, I think.
Oh.
And do you think it would be making the news if it wasn't for the recent Christy gnome stuff? I mean,
Yes.
Well, the dog's name is Teddy, after all.
Well, yesterday I
Was.
thought it was going to be a big shepherd or something, and then when you find out in the second day that it's a 13-pound Shih Tzu mix. Is that how you say that? I don't know if I've ever
Yes.
said that.
Are we allowed to say that?
I think you got to emphasize the Z.
Shih Tzu.
A tiny, fluffy dog.
Yeah,
That's right.
so
Like it sounded like it was a menace, like they were actually afraid of it.
I was going to say, can we
Top
start
was.
at the
That's-
beginning? And for anyone who might not be familiar with the story, what the heck happened?
So a Sturgeon police officer was called. A resident of Sturgeon called Boone County Joint Communications because there was a dog in his lawn, and the police officers showed up and thought the dog was sick or disoriented and possibly rabid, and the dog also didn't have a collar or tags. So he tried to catch it with one of those long poles with the loop on the end, and he was unsuccessful.
They still have. I thought those were only in cartoons.
So to make a long story, it starts out kind of comedy and turns into tragedy here. To make a long story short, he shot the dog. And if you're going to discharge a firearm in Sturgeon, everybody who's home is going to wonder what happened because everybody's going to hear it. And that's exactly what happened. Turns out there were neighboring children outside. There was a teenager who witnessed the whole ordeal.
Oh my god.
I know. So now it's blown into this. And it turns out the dog was owned by somebody nearby who was blind in one eye and deaf.
The
That's
person
why it
or the
was
dog?
The dog.
Okay.
And that's why it was
no.
disoriented. Yeah.
He was born
No,
deaf.
I'm not sure how he got that way. but-
ABC 17 says he was born deaf and became blind a couple years ago.
But basically, there
poor
was no way
Teddy.
for the officer to know
No,
because
correct.
there
Yeah,
was no
I know.
collar or anything else.
But people are wondering why he had to be in a hurry to shoot it. And
Yeah.
number one, but then number two is the side issue that's coming on is why that firearm's getting discharged in the middle of Sturgeon when there's kids around and people living nearby and because of some dog. And then, of course, it morphs into, was he really afraid of this 13-pound dog?
Well, and, my dad was like a mailman for a few years. And in their mailbags, most of them carry basically pepper spray
Yeah.
to deal with dogs, right? Because even though it is kind of like a funny stereotype, mailmen and dogs don't always get along, right? And so he's had to mace dogs before. Police officers typically carry pepper spray.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking if you're that scared of this dog, why couldn't you have gone with a non-lethal?
See, and I thought you were going somewhere else. I figured your dad had a pocket full of dog treats, and I'm like, if you
Oh.
through a dog treat down
Yeah.
for this little fluffy thing that was,
Yeah.
deaf, it probably would have just come up and eaten this little dog bone, and you could have, pet the
I mean,
dang thing.
scent was the one scent it had left.
Right?
So,
Well,
So-
what's really sad, I mean, apparently the officer thought that the dog, or someone thought that the dog might be rabid because the dog walked with its head
Yeah.
turned to the side. That's because it's deaf. It's trying to hear.
So now
Rabbit
there's-
with
Blind
it.
in one eye.
And blind
Yeah.
in one eye.
Rabid with a D or rabbit because it is a small white fluffy dog.
Now there's outrage in Sturgeon, of course. City Hall is being
Yeah.
flooded with complaints. There's a petition with 300 signatures yesterday to dismiss the cop from his job. And
Well, and
Yes.
and the owner of the dog's angry at the mayor because the mayor, when the mayor called, I filed a complaint formally, said with the city of Sturgeon. The mayor did not contact me. Instead, posted a statement contradicting everything that me and the officer spoke of,
Well-
saying the officer's fear was Teddy having rabies.
yeah, and he's got video of talking to the officer, apparently.
The officer apologized.
Yeah, and this isn't going to be easy on City Hall because the officer has his due process rights. It's just going to be a mess. Now
Well,
for
This is one of those deals, too, where you see smaller jurisdictions like Sturgeon and some of the smaller communities. that don't have the luxury of an animal control officer or anybody in there. They'll would presumably have to call out to Boone County to one of their deputies who specializes in animal control and all that. So, not defending anybody, but it's one of those kind of deals in a small town.
Oh, I can see the defense coming up. If the officer can make a case that he was genuinely concerned for the public welfare, I mean, his point of view here, while unpopular for sure, or may not even make sense, and I don't see how it does, frankly, but he gets his day in court, right? I mean, he gets to defend himself, and I suspect. I mean, it's going to be hard to work in Sturgeon again, but
can you tase a dog?
I don't know.
A little bitty thing like that, I don't know.
It'd explode, I think.
I know.
Would you check on Amazon, see if they have a Shih Tzu level taser that doesn't take them out but just knocks them down?
Say I'll come back
I don't
in an
know.
hour.
Defense of the officer, you ever been bitten by a chihuahua?
Oh, yeah.
Man,
Or a
they're
poodle.
mean and it hurts.
Yeah.
Well, but John, you bring up a good point with small towns. I mean, like, I don't know. I think Ashland has a contract with Boone County, but, I remember being in Kirksville in college and no animal control staff. And I particularly remember a house full of delighted sorority girls when the house had a bat and the young police officer coming over in the middle of the night to chase the bat around the house, because that's who showed up when you had a problem with animals.
Well, and I think my concern would be if this, I mean, of course, we don't know 100% what happened, how things went down, but it kind of seems as though the officer jumped the gun, no pun intended, in just killing the dog. And I think the question could be made of what if that was a human? Would the same impulsivity have applied?
Well, and surely there's like a process for that. Like, first use a taser, or like get a cardboard box, like
pepper
or
spray.
trap
Like,
it. I mean,
No,
like there's
Mike
gotta
said
be.
he tried to use the lasso to catch it.
How do you
Couldn't
catch
do it.
something so small
Yeah,
with
right.
no lasso?
Right.
Chasing
No,
this
I know. That's what I
dead
mean
blind
about-
dog around
Well,
with the little hoop on a
the comedy
on a pole.
the comedy turns to tragedy. Well, if I can't catch you, I got another option here for you.
But also, I mean, but we've all seen, like, how many times on Facebook have you seen, like, loose dog on whatever? I mean, post its picture for an hour on the Sturgeon Facebook page, and somebody would have been like, oh my gosh, Teddy. And then we wouldn't have this problem.
Because people are going to recognize a blind and deaf
Yes.
little dog.
You see it all the time, and people are like, is this your dog? I see it on the side of the road. And within minutes, people are like, oh, either it's their dog or they know whose dog it is.
Listener Jim texts us at 874-9390. Jim says, where's the paws up, don't shoot protests?
Oh,
I know.
Shit's his life matters. I mean, come on. SLM.
had a little
I feel
T-shirt on
SLM.
him that said "Don't poop, don't shoot." Right?
SLM riots in Sturgeon. That's the lead story tomorrow morning.
And like we're
We shouldn't be
laughing, but
laughing.
this is
Poor
terrible.
Mr. Hunter
It
lost
is
his
terrible.
deaf and blind dog. No.
If you're the owner of Teddy, was that the dog's name, Teddy? If you're the
Poor
owner
Teddy.
of Teddy,
You know what?
do you sue the city? Like,
Is there any way that we can sponsor some kind of? I mean, can there be a fund to replace Teddy?
Well, heck,
I know
just
he's
get with our buddies
irreplaceable,
at the Humane Society at the shelter. I'm sure they'd gladly jump in with a Teddy clone of some sort.
Cop will probably have to come and work in Columbia now. He won't be able to get a job anywhere else.
listen, if the Wake Up fam purchases a purebred little dog before my student loans are paid off, I'm going to be ticked off. I'm just saying.
I have a soft spot in my really truly for the owner of this dog because
Yeah.
we adopted a dog. My daughter fosters dogs through the local shelter here, and then she finds people to adopt them. Well, we've got two beautiful dogs, and Simba, the wonder dog, is probably is vision impaired because he regularly runs into doors and
You say
try
probably.
you hold a delectable treat near his nose and he sort of gives it the Stevie Wonder. He's looking around and finally you have to ram it in his face and he gets it. So I have a soft spot in my heart. I mean, I'd hate to think that a cop would shoot Simba because he couldn't find the treat. I mean,
Well, in
bad.
all seriousness, where the outrage comes from, so anybody who owns a dog, and pretty much anybody anyway, people are obviously have strong emotional attachments to their dog. This is a terrible story for the dog.
It
owner.
is. It's bad news.
Yeah, so bad news all the way around. I think it's pretty terrible for the cop, too. I mean, he's not going to get a lot of sympathy, but...
In political news, the Boone County Republicans have found someone to replace Chuck Basie in opposition to Stephen Weber.
Yeah, James Coyne. That they had 2 days left. Let me make sure I got the James. I know his last name is Coyne. Yeah, James Coyne of Columbia, owner of Coyne Agency, a Columbia-based health insurance company. I think they did that yesterday. So Stephen Weber will have an opponent in for what it is in November 5th for that Senate District 19 from Boone County State Senate seat.
All right. Well, we'll have to see how that race unfolds. That's boy, with the redistricting. That's just man.
I don't think I don't think an outstanding Republican from Boone County would have their hands full. A guy without any name recognition or serving in prior office. I hate to write him off right away, but he's got a tall task here to take on Stephen Weber, who's got $1 million in the bank and is pretty popular.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see. Yeah. It's crazy. Hey, well, thank you, Mike.
Sure.
Appreciate that reporting. Remember, at 8:08, we're going to be talking to Brenda Talent about her thoughts on the political scene in planting of some perennials I wanted to put in. And with the lightning going on, and I was worried I might get struck, but I had to finish the job. But it didn't really turn into the storm in my neighborhood like I was expecting in Columbia, but there were some power outages in the area, weren't there?
Yeah, we had some power outages all across the area. I think the biggest one was over in Benton County, where they had about 1,800 people without power over there at the peak of the storms, and Benton and Pettis counties were actually under a tornado warning there for a time. Then there was a big outage in Montgomery County over there that took out over 1,000. There were some smaller ones in Osage and Cole and other counties, and even some of the storm damage even blocked off, that forced troopers to close down part of I-70 near New Florence for an hour or so while they cleaned off some debris over there. So, yeah, we got lucky here in the immediate part of mid-Missouri, but some other folks had some damage. I think there was some damage over near Clinton, over near Warrensburg in that area.
I know I was super excited to race out of Jefferson City, grab all of my stuff, race to Columbia, and watch half an inning of baseball before the lightning started. And I think a lot of people, we were all just waiting. You could just see it in the sky. You're like, how many pitches are we going to get in here?
And in Iowa, though, at one time yesterday, 80% of the counties were under a tornado watch, and a lot of damage up there. I mean, just
several
tornadoes
deaths
ripped through there. Yeah. Now you related another story that caught my attention about a driver using their child as a shield. I'm trying to picture what the circumstance is there. What do we know about that?
This is a story I had to defer back to ABC 17 on, because this dated back to 2019. And the man, Samuel Allen of Jefferson City, found guilty this week of endangering the welfare of a child and resisting arrest. It was a deal where he was pulled over by Jefferson City police and crashed into the police cars. When they finally got him stopped and all, he had a toddler with him in the car and was using him as a shield to avoid being arrested, and didn't want to let the cops in, even to take the kid away. And it finally ended safely for the kid and everybody else involved.
Yeah.
Boy,
wow. That's pretty brazen. I mean,
it had the kid in the car while he was crashing into the police vehicles as well.
And that the whole episode puts the child in real danger, you know. And then we had an officer break their arm after some kind of they were trying to break up some gathering somewhere, and how'd the officer end up breaking his arm down in Jefferson City?
Apparently the deal on that one was the officer. This was like 4 a.m. on Sunday morning. That there was a Jefferson City police officer trying to break up a large crowd, and it was at the apartments right there on East Dunklin Street, just sort of catty corner from the Lincoln University campus, and was chasing a woman, went off a 10-foot retaining wall, broke their arm, and the woman was accused of had punched a Cole County deputy in the face. And then they say the crowd gathered around the officers as they were trying to arrest the person and got kind of threatening with the officers, but that person was arrested nearby, and the officer's facing some surgery on that arm.
What possesses someone? Is it alcohol? Is it drugs? What possesses someone to assault an officer? I mean, what are you thinking? You're not thinking.
Well, and this is, you get charged, if you're fleeing to avoid prosecution, and then the cop gets injured, whether they're doing it in a patrol car or they're chasing you down a hill and you go over a retaining wall, you're facing charges. I mean, that's assault on a special victim is what that's called.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you've got the person who tried to punch the deputy in the face. I mean, what? It only compounds your problems, right? Once you start going in that
mob
direction.
mentality? I don't know.
Yeah, it's the human psyche under conditions like that, and I think probably usually under the influence of something that removes filters and executive function, you just stop thinking.
I mean, we wouldn't have all
Fight or
of
flight.
these stories of just stupid criminals if they were thinking rationally.
I don't know. I just feel sorry for the cops these days because we have generally a lack of respect for authority. I mean, I went off on the judges the other day, but maybe the judges need to pound their fist on the bench because people are just disrespectful anymore, Respect should be a relatively default behavior, shouldn't it? When we come back, we're going to revisit that MTG Beach Body Blonde whatever. Stay tuned.
Broadcasting live from the Zimmer Communications World Headquarters. This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Get ready, pal.
Here's your host, Randy Tobler.
Welcome back into Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Getting a lot of interesting texts on the caller and text line, 573-874-9390. And ladies, you remember this from last week.
Talking about,
I think your fake eyelashes are messing up.
No, ain't nothing.
Hold on.
Listen, I'm just curious, just to better understand your ruling. If someone on this committee then starts talking about somebody's bleach blonde, bad built butch body, that would not be engaging in personalities, correct?
What now?
That was just,
Good guy response.
that was a great guy response, wasn't it? And he sort of looked flummoxed. He looked like a deer. It was a deer in the headlight. Oh, what now?
We sometimes get that from Randy when Stephanie and I are really engaged in conversation.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, a lot. When you're talking, some of that culture stuff you guys talk about, I'm not always hip on that. But this has turned into an interesting, I mean, it's been sort of an interesting sideshow. On the heels of that, really, it was a rhetorical mud wrestling fight between Jamie Crockett and Representative Crockett and Jasmine Crockett and Marjorie Taylor Greene. Then Marjorie Taylor Greene has now posted a video of her working out, lifting what looks like some pretty substantial weights on the end of a barbell.
Yeah, she's got a plate on either side and a regular barbell. So what
Is
is
she
that?
pulling a Mark McCloskey?
She definitely is, and
And
she's what is she like cleaning it? She's not squatting it.
I think it's
like a clean-
what's
Little
the-
thirst trap.
Is that a clean and press? I don't know what it is. No, she's not pressing it. She takes it up to her shoulders.
It's like a.
I don't. What is that
that's
called? I don't know. But she's looking pretty fit there. She says, "Yes, my body is built and strong," with the little, biceps emoji. Not with nips, tucks, plastic, or silicone, but through a healthy lifestyle. Soon turning 50 years old, God willing, I'll continue to lift, run, swim, play sports, surf, ski, climb, and live this life to the fullest and enjoy every single moment. So there you
Good
go.
for her. She's not messing around.
And Jasmine Crockett, on the other hand, has applied to the Office of Patents and Trademarks for that phrase. And people are now marketing things.
As one does.
Yeah. I wonder if she had that planned. Bleach, blonde, bad built, butch body song. Boy, that's some alliteration,
I
isn't
don't
it?
think that just like rolls off your tongue. I think it either was texted to her or that's what they call Marjorie Taylor Greene behind her back.
And then, and this one website has come. Build butch body.
They've
So they've
remixed
come up
it
with
into-
songs. It's turned into a bit of a cultural phenomenon.
I mean, she may as well, get her bag, as the kids say.
Right.
Yeah.
Make
Well,
her
Make
money.
her money.
So I do think, I mean, we've got to do better than that. We just have to. And I think I think Marjorie Taylor Greene started it with the eyelash comment, and then it just went downhill from there.
fake eyelash.
But I think when you're commenting on people's appearance or you're
Yeah.
making these personal attacks, you're losing. Because again, this was the Garland
Yeah.
hearing. I mean, this was totally irrelevant to what was happening. And I wonder, it seemed like what happens on Twitter suddenly came to life in that congressional hearing. And I heard someone else describe it like this isn't Fox News where you can just like say whatever. It's the congressional hearing. And so many of these people are so used to firing off tweets or like talking on, TV or on the radio. Right. And they've lost the distinction of now we're in a congressional hearing and we need to change our tone and our, it's bad.
And I think, having said that, occasionally we have seen moments where there was bipartisan levity, and it sort of breaks the tension. I think of the other day with a prayer offered by one of the legislators, and then
this was great.
Wasn't that great on the floor of the House, wasn't it?
Yeah, they were up on the dais, and they go to do the pledge, and someone comes over the microphone, another rep.
No, the guy prayed. The guy did the morning prayer.
And then they turn to do the pledge, and someone comes over the microphone and says, "This is the voice of God," or whatever. And
haven't heard from you lately.
Yeah. It was very cute.
And that kind of stuff, I think, when you're in and it was a tense session. I mean, maybe not so much on the House side, but I think that kind of levity, most of us can say, hey, we can get along with that. But this was just hateful stuff. I mean, this was just, I don't know. There's a lot No love lost there.
Well,
No.
and, I like Stephanie's comparison to a real life example of what happens on Twitter. You tweet about one thing, and the cronies who are on Twitter all day long to argue with people about that one specific thing you tweeted about, they are complete strangers who like to attack other complete strangers on the internet. And all that they have in their arsenal is, attacks on your physical appearance because they don't know anything else.
Well, and what's more, I mean, it's really embarrassing if you're if you spend your whole day on Twitter. I find that to be embarrassing because it means you don't have anything else going on. But even more embarrassing and cringe is people create multiple Twitter accounts and then they think that we don't know that it's the same person, and then they're fake interacting with each other.
Really?
And and then they're liking each other's tweets, and they're whatever, but you're this is the same, it's clear it's the same person.
Or it feels like you're getting ganged up on by a bunch of people, and then you realize, wait, this is probably the same one, maybe two people
in their basement.
Yeah.
How do you figure that out?
It's always the folks that never have a real profile picture.
Well, and it's super obvious by the content of the tweets, the timing of the tweets, it's super obvious.
And
right there on AOC's webpage.
Yeah, and then if you go to their page, then you can see that they interact with the same 2 or 3 people all day long.
It'd be like me. I have my Stephanie Bell Twitter, and then I would be conservative, Missouri conservative woman or something. I would give myself another random whatever. And
but how would I know that that's you?
It would be obvious.
That assumes I'm spending a lot of time trying to figure that out.
It becomes obvious
when you know what to look for,
quickly.
Are you guys talking about how much time you spend on Twitter? I'm just saying.
I asked Stephanie about Nicki Minaj's followers if you want to know about that getting ganged up on.
I never want to do that again. It was bad.
Does Randy know that story?
No. What's this?
Do you know who Nicki Minaj is?
Yeah, she's some kind of a pop star, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was at the presidential debate, and I had posted where I was.
Okay.
And all of a sudden, Nicki Minaj announced on Twitter that she had been swatted and we knew that she had been swatted, but she said, "I'm coming after you now. I know your name. I've reported you to the police, Stephanie Bell." And and obviously Stephanie Bell is kind of a common name, but her Twitter followers go to Twitter, I will say, humble brag, when you search on Twitter, I'm the first Stephanie Bell that comes up, good or bad. And so my phone turned into a brick. It was dinging so fast I couldn't do anything. The notifications were coming so fast. It killed my phone. I have no pictures from the debate because my phone died in 30 minutes.
Really?
You had hundreds of people tweeting at you.
Oh yeah, and then
hate tweets.
Oh yeah, they said
we got ugly.
Oh, and they were we know where you are. You're in. We're coming for you. And I was with our friend Jennifer Bukowski. She's like, "Are we safe?" I'm like, "Well, there's a lot of security around because we're at the debate,
but
so I think we're okay."
It has to be frightening.
And so I actually tweeted back and said, "Look, I have no beef with Nicki Minaj. It's this is I'm in Missouri. This is not me. Blah blah blah." And they eventually came around, and then they were quite lovely and told me that I was pretty. Some
you
of
were
them
their
said,
Republican queen.
Yeah, they said, "Okay,
that was a good
Republican
one.
queen." Some of them tweeted back at me, MAGA,
wow.
and they were like, I guess she has a line in one of her songs, "We all have a Republican doctor."
I see.
So they and then they were like, Stephanie for president. They were like, and
So-
they were actually, and I wouldn't think they would normally be the MAGA crowd, but they were pretty.
So it's all or nothing. It's love or hate with that crowd, right? Yeah.
But
or
it
they
was,
felt bad and they were trying to suck up.
it was pretty intense for a while if you're ever on the end of that. And then actually the whole thing was on TMZ the next day. So it was my first TMZ appearance.
Lord of the Flies is a reality, isn't it? Now it's just been transmuted to this time.
What did TMZ say? A mid-Missouri attorney got attacked online.
Yeah, they were going to award her the rainbow flag Stanley Cup because of her performance.
Oh my gosh.
Man.
It was rough.
Well, Rich, thank you, Rich. Rich says that what MTG was doing was a clean and jerk. Yep. A clean and jerk is what that's called. When you take it from the floor and in one motion up to the shoulders, right? Just pretty much boom, boom.
Yeah.
And then
She was lifting weights.
Yeah, well, good for her. I mean,
But free weights.
yeah, free weights, substantial. Speak of quickly capturing the moment, says Trucker Tom. We saw a group of guys at the PGA Championship wearing orange jumpsuits with Scheffler's mugshot on the front on Saturday, the morning after the arrest. That was weird what happened at the at the U.S. Open.
Yes, and we were just talking about the worst times to get arrested. One would be, or like pulled over. One would be on your way to work. And I, this morning, followed a highway patrolman all the way into the station. So I was a tad late because I did not want to.
Actually had to drive the speed limit. This is BS.
I think I almost jinxed myself earlier in the week by talking about it because I said it'd be embarrassing because I don't give myself enough time. So if I was ever pulled over on the way here, I would likely be late, and then I would have to explain to all of you why I was late.
You don't think that excuse would work? But officer, I need to get to the radio.
I tried that once. It didn't work.
Didn't work? I once was on the way to a delivery at St. Luke's Hospital.
Oh,
I'm
my
not
gosh,
kidding.
really?
I was on the way to a delivery. Our office was in Richmond Heights, and I was trying to get out to Chesterfield, and I was rushing it. Probably 70 there. That's 60 on 40.
Did you have like a badge or something? Because I would think like, I got to get to the hospital to deliver a baby.
No, you know what the officer said? Well, they have people there. They have backups. So,
oh my gosh.
Yeah. No mercy. No mercy.
Wow, really?
I don't think I got a ticket.
Did you make the
ticket,
delivery?
But barely. I mean, it was one of those gloveless deliveries back in the day.
Had left the catcher's mitt in the big truck.
Just walk in the room and
That's how they
the
all
heck with the
are.
gloves,
See, I had some splaining to do when I got pulled over because, I was going pretty fast.
Yeah.
I was driving a car that was not mine. It was my mom's.
Oh, boy.
My driver's license still had a Centralia address on it, but I was coming from California to Columbia. So the officer...
What county was this that you got stopped in?
Cole.
Yeah.
Yeah, I deserved it though. But the officer was very confused, I think, and my window wouldn't roll down, which was super embarrassing.
Oh, no. Talk about resisting arrest. Oh, my goodness.
Oh gosh, Hannah, that's embarrassing.
Yeah, blame it on the window crank. Yeah, right. But yeah, it's the motor in the window. Yeah, right.
It's a fun way to start your day at 4:30 in the morning, let me tell you.
He was like, "Are you just waking up or are you coming home from somewhere?" That was probably what was in his mind.
Yeah, maybe.
It is true though. When you get pulled over, it is a stress test. I mean, you don't need to get on a treadmill.
It was the first time I'd ever been pulled over.
Oh boy.
And so I basically just cried the whole rest of the way.
Did it work? Did it work?
I didn't cry in front of the officer. I was very proud of myself.
Oh. Did you get a ticket?
Yeah.
Oh.
But I deserved it.
Did you know any attorneys who could work? Nah, never mind.
Turn it into a muffler problem. It's just a muffler problem.
My speedometer's not working. I don't know.
Oh. Well, let's step aside and come back and see what's going on, what's hot with Hannah. And we do need to talk about this release, the
Because the person I'm going to be talking about is known for his speed.
Who's that?
You were Speedy Gonzalez this morning. Columbia native, Carl Edwards.
Oh.
I know it's not Friday yet, but I'm nominating him for winner of the week. And it's not often I do a sports-related story because I usually flub the details, so I'm just going to apologize in advance. But Carl Edwards was elected to the NASCAR Hall of Fame this week. So congratulations to Carl Edwards. It's cool to see a Columbia boy doing big things.
Yeah, he's iconic in NASCAR.
Yeah, he's a huge deal, and I think he's especially huge because he still, I think, is around the area, right? And decided to still make Missouri his home, which I think is really neat. And then I think also anyone, I've met him a couple of times, and anyone I've ever known that has met him talks about just like even as like in today's dates, like what a kind and generous and nice and humble person he is. You never hear, all of the antics we see of like professional sports people and other things, you never hear an ill word about him at all.
Well, and one of our coworkers tells a story about how they were out eating somewhere and he kind of either came in late or had to leave early, but they were just, chatting with him for a little bit while he got his food, and he left and they went to pay their ticket at the end of their meal, and he had paid for this like large group of people at this fancy restaurant. So
yeah, he's a good guy.
Yeah, I know.
He even substitute taught at one time. If you talk to Carl, if you see Carl out and about, have him tell you some of his stories when he was a young guy after he quit attending Mizzou and had to go into the classroom for a while.
Well, and I think like it was just several years ago, he went and did some broadcasting for a NASCAR event. And I kind of honestly wish he would do more of that. I know. And then there was like a fake, if you recall, right after he did the broadcasting, there was a fake Twitter account, and
yes,
and it comes up and it was like, so glad to be back in the NASCAR world, blah blah blah, and it went on for like a couple of days before I think they realized what was happening, and then I think somebody had to come out and be like, that's not, he doesn't do social media, that's not him, but they had everybody fooled for a while, and like he was going to launch this broadcast career. I think he only did the one event, and then I don't know that he's done another one.
As far as I know, yes. But again, kudos to Carl Edwards for being inducted into the NASCAR Hall of Fame. That's pretty cool.
Right. Let's all do a collective backflip for Carl.
Oh, I forgot he used to do that.
I wonder if he's ever gotten into a fight with another racer. Did you see that the other day where Kyle Busch and Ricky Stenhouse got into a fight? Busch apparently bumped Stenhouse's car, hit the guardrail of the wall, and knocked him out of the 200-mile race, or 200-lap race at North Wilkesboro. And they got into it. They did.
It was a physical
brawl.
altercation, and both of them kind of had crew members that looked like maybe get involved.
I remember back in the day, and Carl Edwards fans will remember he got into it with Matt Kent's at one time, and it got pretty ugly.
But quickly here, since you are on time, I have all this extra time to talk about anything I want because I have a hostage audience.
The floor is yours.
On the radio station's websites, we have the link to the 9/11 Memorial Columbia Stair Climb that's coming up next weekend. You can also get tickets for the dinner that takes place next Friday night. They have a really cool 9/11 survivor speaker planned, so I'd encourage folks to go check that out.
And when we talked to a representative from the fire department, they said it's really quite an event and quite a solemn moment as well. When we come back, we'll talk about what's going on in D.C. with
I think just local news is like the most important stuff to me, even though it's kind of like bad stuff going on around me, but it's the most relevant.
filings were unsealed on that classified docs case. And Julie Kelly's been doing some interesting reporting on that. And she's a reporter for Real Clear Investigations. And it's reported as some fairly bombastic authorizations and procedural things that the FBI agents were authorized to employ. They were authorized to use polo shirts without markings on them. Point 4, I'm looking at the document. Point 4, the illegal raid. Law enforcement officers of the Department of Justice may use deadly force when necessary. And there's something about USA-012858183.
Does it say anything about using deadly force against fluffy little dogs?
No.
Oh, Hannah, too soon.
Sorry.
Only in Sturgeon. The agents plan to bring standard issue weapons, ammo, handcuffs, medium and large size bolt cutters, and they were instructed to wear unmarked polo or collared shirts, and to keep collated law enforcement equipment concealed. Don't FBI agents normally, when they raid you, have an FBI all over their body with
usually they got their big raid jackets on that says FBI or federal agent,
and they have
depending
their
on the
Kevlar
agency.
protectors under it, right? I mean, so what were they thinking they were going to encounter? I mean, some kind of an Alamo situation, and I don't get it.
I mean, having never been raided by the FBI, I don't know.
You were swatted almost.
Obviously with someone like a former president, there are different circumstances, and we know there have been different rules. And so we're learning a lot, and I think we still have a lot to learn about exactly how and why this went down the way that it did.
The FBI had a medic on the scene. They identified a local trauma center for anyone, quote, injured during the raid. I mean, now, just this morning, this got me worked up last night. It doesn't take much to take much to get me worked up. I know. Well, I think our country is descending into a certain amount of chaos, and this is just another example of this dual justice system that we seem to have, a parallel system of justice. And I mean, look, criminal lawyers and prosecutors and constitutional scholars have said as much, not just Randy, but a medic on the scene.
That's standard practice for SWAT teams. SWAT teams always bring their own medics, even on our local level.
And my understanding of the use of deadly force is that is like boilerplate in most like raids. Like they always have, like you kind of always have that authority. But whether or not, this in some ways different than their typical authority, I don't know.
Now here's the other thing that doesn't make sense. I'm looking at a log from the unsealed filings in this classified documents case. In case you're just joining us, these filings have been released. The FBI ransacked and took photos of Melania's bedroom and Barron's bedroom. And you see line item after line item here. Former First Lady such and such. What were they looking for? I mean, what are you going to see?
They knew Biden had the documents in his garage, right? And some of the documents here, weren't they found in the bathroom? So if you knew Biden had documents and who else? I mean, where else were these documents that Biden had? So you were looking for whatever you could find.
That's one of those deals, if you've ever been in a scene where there's been a search warrant served, it can get pretty ugly.
All right. So
a big mess.
So this is where Randy, the enemy of tyranny. I am the enemy of tyranny. I don't like tyranny. So are you. So is everyone listening. If you're not an enemy of tyranny, you should probably, move to China, move to Putin land over in Russia. But so if you're raided until you're found guilty, let's say you're found innocent. Let's say that. I mean, Melania. Nothing was found there. Nothing was found in Barron's room. Some of these raids, they rip computers out. When nothing is found, of course, I doubt they'd ever admit nothing is found. Sorry, excuse me for being cynical. If nothing is found, who pays for the cleanup? Who pays for the IT company to come in and reinstall things? Oh, I'm not liking the look I'm getting from Stephanie. Are you going to tell me that's just part of the system? Deal with it?
I'm pretty sure
Stephanie,
you're on the hook.
That doesn't feel good, does it?
I
Does that
mean,
feel good to
some
you?
people never get their stuff back. I mean, there's lots of court cases about this, right? I mean, they take all your stuff and then...
Have you seen the movie Civil War? There's a new movie out called Civil War. I can't wait to see it because we, the people, are getting tired of the strong arm of government on us without any redress. We can't, and even if there is redress, even if there is some way to try to get things right, you can't afford it. You're paying $1,000 more a month between insurance and gasoline and milk and eggs for your kids. The little guy doesn't have any redress when the tyranny of the government comes down on you.
They don't. I mean, there's whole, I think, sections of websites. Like I know our friends at Reason write a lot about asset forfeiture in this kind of context, and people have their cars taken and other things taken, and sometimes it takes years. And it turns out they did nothing wrong. And so, yeah, I mean, getting your stuff back or any sort of redress from the government acting in a way that's wrong is really tough, especially on the little guy.
Do you know how legacy media could make a resurgence? If you're there at a failing legacy media, heads up.
In case you missed that was a mouth horn. Let's hear it again.
Okay.
What
I don't have my trombone with me to do some kind of a, antiphonal announcement here.
Randy, are you sure that you're only drinking half calf this morning?
It usually happens on the weekends. So we just had a weekend past, and that's when I have time to ponder what's happened to our country. Well, no, these things have built up.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
It's like these things build up. They build up. And then when I have it's like when an abscess happens, and all of a sudden, boy, it just ruptures, okay?
TMI, man. TMI.
All right, now listen. One of my favorite reads is the NRA magazine every month because they have the armed citizen part, where they go through and they say, and you just want to stand up and cheer and go, yes, the little guy triumphed. The little guy.
Way to go, Grandma. Way to shoot that burglar.
Well, and I think when these cases of forfeiture asset do finally end up, I'm sure there's a lot of things that end up in the favor of the little guy after he's been bankrupt. And he gets some vindication. Those things, if that was front page news, I would buy that newspaper. I want to know that there is a chance for the little guy to get justice, because I just hear story after story after story where that just doesn't happen. And it just...
Well, but at the same time, I think where people are really frustrated is not only should the little guy get justice, but we're not talking about a little guy here. We're talking about a big guy. One, not the big guy. That's Joe Biden, the big orange guy here. And so I think for folks, so not only should the little guy be able to get justice, but you shouldn't be treated differently just because you're the big guy and because people hate you politically.
Absolutely.
And so from whether you're the big orange guy, the big Joe Biden guy, the smaller Hunter Biden guy, or whether you're just Randy Tobler, the same rules should apply. And what we're learning, and what we've really learned over the last year, is that we are all operating under completely different sets of rules. If you're Hunter Biden, you have one set. Yeah. If you're Randy Tobler, you've got another set. If you're Donald Trump, you got a whole other set of rules. Yeah.
You know what this brought to mind for me when I saw this, that, the FBI was kind of trying to do it on the down low for whatever reason is. So I don't know, not to alert the media or something as they show up in 20 long black SUVs. But remember the phone calls when Lloyd Austin was out sick and he'd had the prostate surgery and he had a bad reaction and a medical incident, and his handlers had called the EMS in D.C. and said, yeah, come without sirens and lights and all that stuff. So
that's right. Yeah.
Listener Randy on the texter 874-9390 has bad news for Randall Tobler.
What is that?
Says, FYI, Randy, I believe the Civil War movie is woke and liberal.
Oh, no, I heard it was going to be sort of a warning sign in terms of the country descending into a balkanized country with basically, two large warring factions, right? The We the People MAGA faction and the liberal elites. Oh man, Randy, tell me it ain't so. I don't want to see us fighting one another. But okay, I thought about the whole siloization and the special people versus the rest of us. But in a way, the government has succeeded in creating one special interest group against another. I mean, Hannah, as lovely and wonderful and sweet and perfect as you are,
Oh no, there's a big but coming.
think about how many people have a little bit of animus because you're lobbying a little bit for student debt, or you want to see her. No, but think about it.
I'm
Think about
very
it.
self-interested in that topic.
But
yes.
but so is everyone when they're lobbying the government for their little bit.
yeah.
And I think the government. This is why I continue to argue for 1789 limited government at all levels, because when the government starts handing out to this group and taking from that group to hand out to this group, it creates resentment. It's like favoritism at work. It's one of the biggest things that leaders at workplaces try to combat is the perception, even if it's not the reality, of favoritism, right? Well, now we live in an environment from a government standpoint and a government to the relationship of citizen standpoint that it's like, well, I didn't get mine. I paid for my kids. Well, it's not fair. Well, therefore, I don't like the government. And by the way, I don't like Hannah because she's going to get hurt. And you start creating these silos of entitlement. The young people resent the old people because of the Social Security. I'm paying into your Social Security. I'm not going to get any. I mean, that's a lot of what's fueling this. And the politicians know it. They deceitfully and I think not so surreptitiously, they know it, and they don't care, because if they buy enough votes with enough special interest handouts, they have a permanent gig. This is why I'm becoming an increasing fan of term limits. I really am. Well, you can't learn much about. It's important that I learn about this, and I don't want you to know about the oil industry. I don't want you to know about the agriculture. Stay the heck out of that. Stop giving handouts and subsidies and social engineering. Stop it.
But a lot of people blame the dysfunction we've had in the Missouri legislature this last year on term limits, because it destroys relationships and it actually gives more power to those lobbyists because you don't have time to learn it, so you just have to take their word for it.
Yeah, but that assumes that government should be doing more. One of the best things that happens in a legislature is when nothing happens. I love it. Stay out of my life. Just stay out of my life. Okay, time for a break. I'm going to go get some
themselves in a big problem when the ball goes over the fence into the yard of mean Mr. Myrtle, and they have the confrontation with the Beast. How about the scene where Squints, the kid in the glasses, pretends to be drowning so the young lifeguard, Wendy Peppercorn, his crush, could give him CPR. Naturally, as a preteen boy, he was nervous to do the kissing scene. He said the director told him, keep your tongue in your mouth. No funny business here. Came right down to it because Squints the sly smile to his friends after Wendy looked away for a split second. Remember the not so appealing scene of the chewing tobacco and the kids getting ill, made of licorice and bacon, so they felt a little queasy after they had to eat it. And actually, some of them did get sick from the fake tobacco, but the vomit in the film was fake, made from split pea soup, baked beans, oatmeal, water, and gelatin. But the best scene has to be Smalls stares into the eyes of the Beast, the big English Mastiff, fearing for his life, trying to get the ball back, and the dog licks his face. They said the only way they got the dog to do that was smear baby food all over the side of his face so you can't see it in the shot. And our trivia question all together now, who played mean Mr. Myrtle?
Was that
James Earl Jones?
Yeah.
James Earl Jones.
Randy,
And you know the rest of that one.
Behind the scenes here.
See how much I know about that?
Randy only knew this because I was playing him the trailer for the movie.
Okay.
2 seconds ago.
Well,
because he's never seen it or even heard of it.
No, when you
It's a
brought
good
it up,
movie.
The whole time he's
memory.
like, what time did, or when did this come
Well, it
out?
was
This is a new kid.
93, yeah. So
Before my time.
I probably saw it. I don't really remember a lot about movies. I don't know why. I just
Their language is pretty raw in the uncut version. It makes it just that much fun.
Oh, really? Yeah.
And you can tell these kids are having a good time when they made the movie. They're cracking
the trailer
up through the whole thing.
Trailer looks like a blast. It looks like a fun movie. You know?
It's super good.
Yeah. So I don't know. Why? How come we don't have fun movies like that anymore? Are they making fun movies like that? I don't see the kids watching those kind of movies anymore.
I have wasted so much money and time watching stupid movies in the last 2 months. No, a lot of them. The new Super Mario movie was good, and we just watched the latest Trolls movie out at Lakeside, Ashland, out at the, and it was wonderful.
Yeah.
The music was like all like 2000s pop and stuff, and so
that's
I
cool.
loved that. But the Barbie movie, it was not for me.
I want to see the new Mad Max remake.
Oh yeah,
Is there
What's
a new
that
Mad
called?
Max?
Yeah.
Oh.
Furiosa. Isn't that it?
Oh, I like that. I
Ooh,
like
a
that.
movie that I think Randy will like.
Yeah.
I don't know the release date, but they're doing a film version of the Broadway musical Wicked.
yes,
Oh,
that's gonna
yes,
be so
I've seen
good.
that tease.
Ariana Grande plays
Yeah.
Glinda, and they're releasing teaser trailers slowly but surely, and it just looks like the CGI masterpiece. It looks like it's going to be really good.
That is a great, great play.
Yes,
Wicked
I've seen that one on
Yeah,
Broadway.
I just-
Humble brag.
Isn't that great though?
Yeah.
I mean, I love it. So have they come out with another Guardians of the Galaxy?
Ooh, I don't know.
I love that series because largely because of the music.
Yeah, they
you
had,
know,
they had
and
a
the humor.
second one.
Yeah, there were 2 of them at least.
I think they're done with those movies,
Yeah.
but
Chris Pratt,
series.
good. He's good. He's good.
outspoken
Groot.
Christian.
me, Randy.
Just we've been asking various of our friends of the show to weigh in on sort of a grade card, a report card on the just finished Missouri General Assembly, and I don't know if you ever experienced it in your education, but I'm old enough to go back to the days when we had a letter grade, and then you also got an effort, a 1, 2, or 3. You get a 1, 2, or 3 for effort, and even if you had a B, if you got a 1, I forget which was the best. I think a 1 was superior for effort. That was sort of okay because you gave it your best. You gave it the good college try. So maybe we can ask you to give a grade, an overall grade for the legislature on sort of their achievement, the letter grade, and then an effort grade.
Well, Randy, I don't believe in grading on a curve. And, while I liked the parts of the education reform bill, if this legislature was my class, they'd all be held back.
So you'd have several children left behind? Is that what you're saying?
No, I would hold them back so that they could actually learn and improve. And again, I would also say it depends upon what you're grading them for, right? If you want to grade them on obstruction, dysfunction, they'd get a pretty high grade.
So talk to us a little bit about the Show Me Institute's work. Now that the legislative session is finished for this, talk to us about the interim, what you're doing as far as preparing, kind of taking a review of all the things that didn't pass that you had hoped, and what that work looks like for you all in the off session.
Well, we always look at this as incremental because change can happen fast if you have the right leadership, but more likely than not, you're going to have to just continue to persuade, show people the facts, show them why it makes a difference, why it'll benefit Missouri. And so what we'll be doing is we're glad that the ESAs were expanded, and we were glad that now charter schools can open in Columbia. We're going to continue to build on that to make the case for why everyone in the state is entitled to have charter schools to be open, and why, in fact, for expanding school choice, we should be like other states where basically the money follows the child. We are going to be looking at the foundation formula, but the other thing we're doing right now is because we're already hearing calls for special sessions, because they're going to need more money. I mean, the budget they passed was over $50 billion as it is, and while it was less than last year's, it's still a whole lot more and has grown a whole lot more than it should have. And so we're right now focusing on the fact that there are these calls for we need more money in education. We've had more money than ever in education, and while enrollment is declining. So we're preparing for that, to show the fact that more money is not the answer, and it's not really needed, not when you actually look at the data. The other thing we're doing, though, because of the budget, every year we issue a blueprint for Missouri, and so we're looking at that. We're looking at what progress we've made on that and what refinements there are that we need to make. One of the big issues we're going to be talking about is really a taxpayer bill of rights, because with this budget and how it's grown, we need to protect Missourians. We need to limit the growth of government. I mean, it's expanded tremendously, which means it intrudes upon our ability to create businesses, care for our families. And so we're working on this taxpayer bill of rights, which we've rolled out parts of it, but we're going to be rolling out more because we think it's very important that taxpayers and their interests be protected in the state of Missouri.
Talking with Brenda Talent, CEO of the Show Me Institute, here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri this morning.
Brenda, I know it's kind of Aaron Hedlund's purview, and we talk to him so much about the economy and the inflation data and all that. As it applies to the Fed and all, and the Fed delaying any kind of even discussion about cutting the interest rates, what's that mean to the bottom line of Missouri?
Well, what it means is Missourians have less money in their pocketbook, less buying power. I mean, we've seen that already. I mean, you go to the grocery store and you feel that impact. And I would say that as a state, we have to begin to become a lot more competitive with our surrounding states, because we want to attract families and businesses to Missouri, and we're not doing that. I mean, we're in what they call a demographic winter, where more people are leaving or are passing away than are being born or coming in. That is not a good condition for a state.
Brenda, we talked last week about the story that Mike Murphy reported about Kraft Heinz sort of doing a two-step here in the Columbia area, wanting to, on the one hand, saying that they want tax abatements for some improvements and some upgrades in the facility. On the other hand, pretty openly talking about, selling their business and, moving out. And we've talked with David Stokes, of course, the municipal policy guru at Show Me, about the whole issue of tax abatements, tax credits, the whole winners and losers kind of thing that happens. Was there any movement on some kind of reform, restriction, rethinking of that in the legislature? I know you all talk about that a lot at Show Me, and I know Aaron's addressed it as well.
Right. There have been bills addressed. They just haven't moved on it. I think there's an attraction for elected officials to be at ribbon cuttings and to feel like they've done something. But, of course, as my experts have discussed, it doesn't produce the wanted benefits. And while you can craft certain kinds of tax subsidies in a better way, the reality is that what you should be doing is giving across-the-board cuts to everyone, creating a level playing field so that everyone can compete. Again, let the free market work. And it's surprising when you do that how things turn out. It actually turns out better than when government is trying to pick winners and losers.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, it's I can see on the one hand if the general municipal rules of the game across the country or in neighboring states, and is you can buy favor. Of a company moving to your area and staying in your area by, giving them handouts, and you argue, well, the employees will, bring more economic involvement and they'll pay taxes and blah, blah, blah. But I don't know, at the end of the day, I still struggle. I mean, are there any examples where municipalities and our states sort of hold the line and just say, look, we are truly, a limited government and that therefore pro-enterprise environment, and that works? I mean, it just seems like everyone's doing it, so it's almost like a matter of playing by the rules that are currently in play.
Well, again, it's the willingness, the fortitude, if you will, to take a broader view. I looked at this Kraft Heinz deal where what part of what they're talking about is basically freezing the personal property tax. And while we don't like special deals, we also don't like the personal property tax. And that particular tax really does disincentivize businesses from improving their plants, because if they put in new equipment, if they increase the production of their line or add new production lines, they're going to pay more in personal property tax. That's disincentivizing the growth of businesses. So what we would like to see is more of a cross-the-board cut in that regard. And, again, there's something called a commercial surtax in Missouri, which is imposed upon businesses. We did see Clay County actually have a vote, it was a couple of years ago, to roll back their commercial surtax, because it's interesting. Absent a vote by the people, you can't roll it back. Huh. And one of the things, again, in Boone County, they're a little higher than normal. I'm not going to say they're the highest in the state, but their commercial surtax is higher than the average. One of the things they could do if they want to attract more businesses is lower that property tax, because that's a tax on buildings and land. So there are things that municipalities could do if they want to be more competitive, or if they want to say, you know what, we're open for business. Come locate here. Yeah.
And I think, Stephanie, you and I have talked about it. Brenda, I think you probably part of the whole angst that many of us have. It's like you said, if you're a small business owner, you're maybe someone wanting to start up a business, why can't you get a tax abatement? And it's a matter of where is that threshold? How big and how powerful do you need to be to sort of wink at the government? The government takes care of you. It just doesn't feel fair. It just doesn't feel fair.
It isn't fair, and it's not fair to the existing businesses that are put at a competitive disadvantage. I mean, we've seen that time and time again. You can just look at Ballpark Village in St. Louis, where restaurants were put out of business because restaurants that were located within the Ballpark Village got the tax subsidy, but the existing restaurants didn't.
Now, I know we recently had an event here in mid-Missouri that Randy headlined. It was a Show Me event where people were able to kind of interact with the Show Me Institute, ask questions, and get that face-to-face time. If people are interested in learning more about what other events are out there and getting more info from the Show Me Institute, where can they learn?
Go to showmeinstitute.org, and there's an event page. In fact, we have 2 events coming up today. They're in the St. Louis area. We have a lunch, and we also have I would call it a cocktail reception, where we're going to talk about what happened during the legislative session. And then on June 18th, again in St. Louis, we're going to have something we call the Next Gen Connection, and Aaron Hedlund's going to be headlining that. We are going to be talking about the economy.
And those are worth the trip. I've actually gotten friends together and we've carpooled up there. So even if they're, a little bit outside of our Mid-Mo area, it's always fun to get up there and hear directly from your people there at Show Me.
Yeah, it's really great. And those are great opportunities to really get into the weeds. And I know many of our listeners really enjoy taking a deep dive into the topics. And I know your experts are so well informed in all of the little intricacies and nuances. And there's a Q&A session, and it's really a great interaction.
I think the first time I met Representative Cherie Tolson-Reich was at a Show Me event here in Columbia many, many years ago. So it's also, I find it really fun to connect with other like-minded friends.
Yes, it's always good. Keep it in the tent. Well, Brenda, thank you. So you're not going to grade on a curve, huh? Well, what is your grade? What are you going to give the legislature as we sign off here?
I told you, I'm holding them back. I'm not letting them pass.
That's a big fat
So
F.
that sounds like an F to me. Sounds like an F to me. Okay.
Incomplete, Brenda.
Hey, and it sounds like they don't get a very good grade for effort either. Okay. Hey, thanks very much for being with us, and thanks for all you do at Show Me.
Thanks for having me. Take care.
All right, showmeinstitute.org.
up 0.17. Looking at NASDAQ, 0.22%. S&P, 0.25%. So overall good. Today so far, the futures are looking red. I'm not quite sure what's causing that this morning, but all the indices are in the red. Yesterday, energy was leading the losers. Utilities was significantly up and driving the gainers. Since we're not going to get any help from the Biden administration as far as inflation, you can always count on the market, really. And the marketplace, Target, has announced on the heels of a similar announcement by Aldi that they are going to slash prices of 5,000 items. And I think that's probably a good thing. I will say a lot of what they're going to slash are things like grocery items, pet items, so milk, meat, bread, fresh fruit and vegetables, but things like diapers, coffee, paper towels, pet food.
Good.
So staples.
Yeah.
And they're not huge reductions, but at this point, every little bit helps. So, 20 cents here, 30 cents there. I will say I find Target prices to be a little bit on the high side anyway.
I was going to say now they're just closer to matching other retailers.
I know. I typically don't pick up my grocery and staple items at Target because they're higher than my local place. But I will say if I'm in Target and I really need something, I would go, try to grab something just for convenience sake. So it's nice to see that maybe there's some recognition. And I think in the past people probably did pay a premium because you could just kind of get everything all at once. And I don't know. I've just always thought of Target as having kind of the higher prices. So kind of recognizing that and doing what they can to help the little guy, I think, feels appropriate here. And hopefully it starts driving other stores. Again, like Aldi had made a similar announcement. Their prices are already really low, but even Aldi is reducing prices. We've also heard, for example, from McDonald's is planning a summer menu $5 value meal.
Wow.
Where you would be able to get a McDouble or a McChicken, a small fry, and a small soft drink for just $5.
I wonder if that's a reaction to some softening in demand, or if they're just trying to anticipate a softening in demand. Because you hear that, when the earnings reports came out, there were some soft moments there. So I don't know.
Yeah, and I think
their price points are so far up there right now that a lot of people just can't do it.
Yeah.
And Target didn't have a very good first quarter, so they thought, I've got to do something. I think on the McDonald's side too, like that sounds kind of like a loss leader, where like they drive you in with the $5 meal, and then your kid still wants the number 7 or whatever, and you pay $19 for the other type of value meal.
What's in this $5 meal again?
I think it's according to it's a McDouble.
What's a McDouble?
I don't
know. 2
know.
patties on a bun?
It says a McDouble or a McChicken.
With 1 slice of cheese.
Okay.
A small fry, a small soft drink. This says, and a 4-piece chicken McNugget.
Oh, okay. Because I'm sitting here going, that sounds like it's already not, much more than $5, if that.
But a sandwich, a fry, a drink, and then, I guess extra chicken nuggets.
And you get chicken nuggets with it.
Yeah. So you could eat, 2 people could eat that if you have a small kid.
My iPad's blowing up here. Helene says, no, don't do it. Get the salad.
I did have to
McDonald's
go
has
get
salad? No.
They have salads at McDonald's.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I thought they did.
They took them away during COVID, and I
haven't been there forever.
I don't know if they ever came back.
Is that a humble brag? I used to hear that from our other friend. I don't eat fast food.
I did have to go get one of the breakfast bagels yesterday.
Yeah, that's the thing. I've gone there
good.
for the breakfast bagel. I tend not to do the other times of the day, but I've done that. So, I don't know. Well, she's just looking out for your health. That's all. She's
Hopefully others take note of McDonald's and Target and find ways to help out the consumers during this time of high inflation.
I think we ought to start out, though, with what seems to be a little dispute. Governor Parson doesn't want taxpayers paying for the legal expenses for legislators, namely the three of the Missouri Freedom Caucus that got themselves in a little trouble with a defamation suit from a guy that they implied on their Twitter maybe was part of that Kansas City Chief rally. And so he doesn't want any involvement. You're saying you need to defend him. Where are we going to end up on this?
Well, look, the statute requires that the state indemnify state officials who are sued, and that's happened before. There's current other senators who have been sued for defamation, and previous administrations defended them, and so the statute requires it. And if the General Assembly wants to change that statute, that's certainly their prerogative. But at the end of the day, there's jurisdictional issues. Durian says on Twitter, shouldn't land them in a remote jurisdiction. Those questions need to be answered, and the court's going to figure that out.
Now, we got word this morning that Biden is offering additional student loan relief. Now, you've gone to bat for states before, and for people like me who paid my own student loans back, saying I shouldn't really have to pay twice and I shouldn't have to pay for other people, as I'm getting a crabby face from Hannah.
Oh,
is there anything we can do about, it seems like we won that case, and now Biden's trying to get around it and buy these votes off with more student loan relief. At least he could provide Hannah some relief if he's going to.
You're absolutely right. Look, this is an illegal, unconstitutional attempt by President Biden to buy votes because of his plummeting poll numbers. We took him to task once before, put a stop to him. We're going to do so again. I'm not going to let Joe Biden saddle working Missouri families with Ivy League debt. And I'm with you. Look, I paid for my school in blood, sweat, and tears in service to my nation through the United States Army. And it was a get to do that. Nothing is free. Any small business owner or working family out there will tell you there's no such thing as debt cancellation. Someone pays it off. We know that President Biden's plan would cost taxpayers $500 billion. It's going to cost Missouri taxpayers north of $40 million. We're actually leading a coalition of states and have filed suit to put a stop to it. We've won at the United States Supreme Court once before. That reasoning from the case previously is going to apply to this case, and we're going to put a stop to it.
But A.G. Bailey, can't we just wait until I get mine paid off and then go after it?
I get it. Look, Hannah, I get it. Here's my thing. Even to those who may say, well, we think it's a good policy position for student loans to be canceled, even if you believe that is a good policy position. Personally, I don't. But even if we disagree on the policy position, surely we can agree that Congress has the power of the purse, not the president. And Congress has twice rejected bills that would do exactly what the president's trying to do now. They rejected that bill in 2019. They rejected that bill in 2021. They couldn't even get a concurrent resolution.
All right, that's a turn.
At the end of the day,
go ahead.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we want to. We want to remind people that this is Andrew Bailey's last appearance here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Oh, darn. Sure would be a shame if I were to accidentally drop the call.
Joining us here this morning as we're having some fun kidding Hannah about her. She just keeps getting left out of each one of these handouts.
General, our news guys, Don Luzader and the crew from our sister station, KWTO, were right there the other day when you were in the Candidates Forum in Springfield. And you brought up some points we hadn't heard in a while, but you're still all about, and that was a stolen election the last time around.
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, we know that the blue states changed the rules of the game in the 11th hour in order to be able to harvest more ballots for their chosen candidate. There's been lawfare conducted against President Trump. He's starting all the way back with the deep state in 2016, both with the FBI, planting this story about the Russia collusion hoax, but then also with suppressing the Hunter Biden laptop story. I mean, it's ridiculous to look at what's going on in this country right now and to say that we have access to the candidate and the information we need upon which to make good decisions. That's not true anymore. I mean, the self-evident integrity of the process has been undermined by the way in which the process was changed in the 11th hour. And as someone who secured free, fair, and open elections in Iraq in 2005, 2006 for the Iraqi constitutional referendum when I was a platoon leader, Armored Cavalry Scout platoon leader, I've seen what secure elections look like. And it involved single-day voting, single ballot. You show up with identification, you put your thumbprint in the ink, you put it on the ballot, and then those ballots are secured and counted. And that's not what's going on in America today. That's certainly not what happened in America in 2020.
General Bailey, I was reading on your website, ago.mo.gov, the other day that you have you're co-leading a coalition of AGs to really push back on this rewrite of the Title IX policies, which the Biden administration now say it's okay if a guy wants to walk into the gal's dressing room, the locker room, and you're fighting back against it.
That's right. I mean, what's going on is that President Biden is attacking women's equality in athletics and accommodations to facilitate athletic competition. For the last 50 years, Title IX has stood for the proposition that women have their own athletic and equal athletic competitions. They have access to locker rooms and bathrooms, hotel rooms to facilitate travel to athletic competitions. The word, the text of Title IX says no one can discriminate on the basis of sex. Well, President Biden, with the flick of a pen, is saying, well, sex actually means gender identity. In order to allow biological males into women's locker rooms, women's bathrooms, women's hotel rooms for overnight stays for travel for athletic competition. This is an attack on the equality of women that stood for 50 years. And again, even if you think that's good policy, surely we can agree that the law doesn't support it. And what he's doing is in excess of his statutory authority. It's also unconstitutional because he's trying to nullify state law. You'll remember the General Assembly enacted and the governor signed into law the Save Women's Sports Act here at the state level. That's state statute to protect the integrity and sanctity of women's sports. We're not going to let President Biden nullify that with the flick of a pen in the promulgation of an administrative rule.
General Bailey, Harrison Butker made some waves the other day when he was speaking at the Benedictine College and, of course, spoke about traditional family values at a Catholic school to people who know what the values at that Catholic school are. Took a lot of heat, and then there was the what some said was a doxing of him by someone in Kansas City administration. But the St. Louis the Post-Dispatch is challenging you because you've asked for accountability from the KC authorities, whoever did that on Harrison Butker, challenging you to go after someone who wrongly accused someone in his office, an African-American in his office, of doing it. And in fact, they weren't the one who did that. Will you take them up on that?
We're looking at this case and we will ensure that there's transparency and accountability for everything that happened here. But at the end of the day, the Missouri Human Rights Act prevents the government from retaliating against individuals for those individuals' free expression of their religious beliefs. And that's what Harrison Butker did. He's a Christian who was giving a commencement address at a Catholic university to an audience that was largely supportive of the things he was saying. And the funny thing is, if you actually listen to Harrison Butker's speech, it's prophetic. At the beginning of the speech, he says that radical left wants to drive Christian thought, Christian ideology, expression of Christian belief from the public domain and from public discourse. And that's what is going on. That's what the radical left has done to attack and vilify Harrison Butker since he made that speech. The problem I've got from a legal standpoint, and the problem that Kansas City has, is that a city official used a city Twitter account to dox Harrison Butker. That's a retaliation. The city retaliated against Harrison Butker because they didn't like his expression of his Christian beliefs. The Missouri Human Rights Act prevents that. We're going to look into this matter. We're going to ensure that there are systems in place to prevent it from ever happening again, and that the wrongdoers are held accountable.
I think it's interesting as we talk about the Attorney General's role, because it seems like right now your mission is very clear. Wake up, sue Joe Biden. Wake up, sue Joe Biden. As we look toward, which is a great mission, but also, I mean, in this way, you've also got your eye on our blue cities. And I think as a red state with blue cities, that's something I expect of our Attorney General. As we look toward 2024, in looking at the polling numbers right now, envision with me, you're elected as Attorney General. We've got Trump as the president. How does that change your role as you move forward?
Well, President Trump knows how to secure our southern border, so I don't have to have 3 lawsuits against the federal government to demand that they protect our national sovereignty and do their job. President Trump knows how to reform government to prevent the rise of the unelected bureaucratic administrative state that takes away our liberties. So we don't need those lawsuits against the federal government. Look, we're always going to fight to protect Missourians' constitutional rights, but those rights aren't under attack if President Trump's in office. We've increased criminal prosecution at the state level by 133% in 1 year. We can do more. We've got resources available to deploy in the fight against violent crime locally. We collected $32 million in settlements and judgments against predatory business practitioners who are ripping off Missouri consumers and working Missouri families. We can do even more to protect Missouri consumers. There is a lot of work to be done at the state level for transformative conservative change. Removing the Soros-backed prosecutor in the city of St. Louis is one of the accomplishments I'm most proud of. Again, holding accountable radical progressives in these blue cities. There's more work to be done there and ensuring accountability and transparency. Shutting down the gender mutilation clinic, that's another huge win that we've scored just in my 1 year in office. But there's ample work to be done at the state level, and it would be great to be able to not have to be in a constant conflict with the federal government if the federal government stays in its lane and does its job as it would do under President Trump.
That's Andrew Bailey, Missouri's Attorney General. And I wonder if we could I think our listeners and I know we'd be interested in hearing your thoughts about what some have said is a real circus in this hush money accounting trial turned into felony charges by Alvin Bragg. And the conduct of the trial, Bragg's prosecution as a prosecutor and the chief law enforcement officer in Missouri, as well as the judge's behavior. And now letting the jurors go out for a week to talk with their friends and family over Memorial Day, watch the news. I know they're not supposed to, but we know pillow talk and what's going to happen. What are your thoughts as you observe that from afar?
This is an illicit witch hunt prosecution. It's a miscarriage of justice for three reasons. Number one, the charges are bogus. They were never supported by the facts of the law. The judge should have granted a motion for acquittal at the close of state's evidence and then the close of all evidence, because the defense demolished the credibility of what scant evidence that the state had, and the state didn't have sufficient evidence to prove a criminal charge to begin with. Beyond that, it is shameful that the judiciary in the state of New York has allowed this case to move forward, that judge didn't dismiss the case and or recuse himself, given his self-interest in Democrat political machinery. Third, and I think this part is really underreported. I saw President Trump spoke out about it yesterday, and I'm glad to see that we're finally shining the light of truth on this, but the prosecutors themselves are illicitly motivated. Prosecutors can't be self-interested in cases. And as Stephanie would tell you, all attorneys are beholden to rules of professional conduct. Prosecutors are beholden to a higher heightened scrutiny, higher standard of rules. And you can't bring frivolous suits, which is what Alvin Bragg's done, and you can't be politically motivated in those suits, which is exactly what Alvin Bragg and Matthew Colangelo has done. Remember, Matthew Colangelo was the third-ranking official in Biden's Department of Justice and has now been deployed in the fight against President Trump at the state level to lead the prosecution team in the state of New York. That is impropriety. Those prosecutors are illicitly motivated. It's going to undermine the credibility of whatever illegal conviction they may obtain. It probably opens up liability against both Colangelo and Alvin Bragg for censorship on the professional licensure, potentially civil suit by President Trump for violation of his civil rights, and potentially for criminal liability if the laws were broken.
Yeah, it's a mess for sure. Hey, well, we thank you for being with us and weighing in on so many And so I was out, but I try to catch what I can on the way in and driving to my distant clinic, and I thought, wow, this topic of Scarlett Johansson would be great. I said, did you guys talk about Scarlett Johansson? Isn't that the way you'd pronounce it?
No.
In Denmark or wherever she's from, would the J be pronounced Johansson? I guess it would be. Anyway, so I got laughed at that they called because I didn't get it right with Scarlett Johansson.
You try to make things too complicated sometimes.
Up there in the Great White North, they'd pronounce it Johansson. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Johansson.
You betcha.
It's not unreasonable to pronounce it that way. And
but she's also a big enough star that I can't believe you don't just know that it's Johansson.
I don't do a lot of star watching. Well, I do. We do have a telescope. We do like looking at the heavens, but in terms of Hollywood stars, no, not so much. I don't do that too much. I mean,
yeah, just old school deceased artists that you like.
What do you mean?
Nothing.
Old? No, wait. You can't fire a salvo like that without following up on it. What do you mean?
Just saying.
She's dissing you over the passing of David Sanborn or something.
Well, not specifically. I just
because I like to listen to Sinatra.
The stars that you choose to follow are so
they're timeless.
Yeah, that's a good word. Timeless. That a lot of them have passed away.
Like
you still follow stars. It's just they're so old.
No, I follow legends, icons. I mean, look, Mozart, Brahms, Beethoven. I'm not a crazy classical fan. I like to listen to classical when things need to be structured and organized. But I don't really. But I mean, some of the great. Do you really think that Morgan Wallen? Do you think that people will there be a Morgan Wallen station 100 years after his birth, like Frank Sinatra?
Well,
there won't be.
His career's too young. You don't know that.
I can predict it.
Oh, okay.
Now there might be a Taylor Swift station 100 years after her birth. I could see that.
There probably already is.
Well, I'm not talking about contemporary stations for contemporary artists. What defines icon, greatness, timeless is timeless, and you only know that retrospectively, right?
My whole point was that you do follow stars in the sense that you fanboy over.
I follow greatness.
Yeah, okay. Well.
Which is why I follow Hannah and Stephanie.
Oh, now we're sucking up.
And if John Marsh, do you have a Twitter? I keep looking for it.